ces nombreuses interpellations.
Thank you very much, Madam President, and thank you again to honourable members for what again has been a very important and very interesting debate, both covering specific issues and the general thrust of what we are trying to do. I want to apologise, but she is not here, to Mrs Federer. I was distracted because we got the news of this death of 4 people and 46 injured in Liège in Belgium, which has been unfortunately due to what looks like explosions, and it flashed on my phone, and I must confess I was very shocked and had to look at it, but I do apologise for not listening for that moment. I want to also, because I did not do it earlier, say thanks to Madam Andrikienė for the work that you did, Madam, on 2010 on the Human Rights Report, which was an extremely important and valuable document. And I skipped over your name. I do apologise for that in the earlier part. I want to also make it clear that this is not meant to be the definitive strategy, and the reason for that, Madam President, is simply this, that I want the European Parliament to be involved and engaged with me as we drive this forward. You can never have a definitive moment in human rights where you say we've actually got everything written down, everything covered, because situations change. And as I have tried to argue in my contribution to it, and yes, it did take time because I was not satisfied with some of the ideas. I wanted to push further and try out things and discuss and involve people as much as I possibly could within the service, but to actually look at how we can make it more effective and how we can take the relationships we have across the world and make sure that we use them to further the opportunities for democracy, for peace, for security, for human rights for people across the world. So I hope honourable members will see it for what it is and what it is not. And I do not pretend that it is a document seeking to give you all the answers, rather to put down some thoughts that will inspire, I hope, our further debate. Colleagues have raised a number of specific issues. I am just going to comment on 2 or 3 of them. First of all, the issue of freedom of religion and belief, where we have done a huge amount of work this year. It is an issue that honourable members have raised on a number of occasions, and indeed in Member States have raised in the Foreign Affairs Council. And I am very pleased that we were able to achieve the consensus on our resolution of the UN promoting freedom of religion and belief. It is so significant that we take this forward, and you will know, Madam President, that I have said it must be part of the reporting that we now do as part of our gathering together information on human rights. I appreciate what Mr Howitt said about not all delegations are up to speed. I know that. We are at the beginning of building a service and trying to make sure that every delegation all over the world has both the resources, the people, the training, the way of going about things. It is not yet complete. They would be the first to say that, and I would echo that. What I hope you do appreciate is the commitment to try and get there, not just from me, but from all the heads of delegation when I met with them most recently. The issues that concern lesbian, gay, transsexual and bisexual people is really an issue of core importance to how we support people across the world. And as honourable members know, I have got a long and personal commitment on this issue, but I do think it is core to what we do. And I raise it with individual countries when I visit. We also do many statements, and we also promote the importance of this issue in everything that we do. Just for reference on the Commonwealth, I am afraid Madam Sinclair did not wait for the answer either. I was a special guest of the Commonwealth, which meant I had the opportunity to address 53 ministers, to have 28 bilateral meetings, to take part in 2 events, particularly with NGOs, on forced marriage and women as agents of change while I was in Australia, as well, of course, as visiting China and Japan, especially to show our solidarity for the people of Japan still suffering from the effects of the tsunami on the way back. Madam de Keyser, you raised particularly the issues of other Commission pieces of work, especially trade. And again, I have tried to capture that a bit in my thoughts about how to bring together our human rights work right across the Commission, so that in trade, in development, in everything that we do, it is part of the approach that we take. So I agree with you, and again I pay tribute to the work that you have done on this. On Camp Ashraf, Mr Stevenson, you have been tireless in pushing on this issue. I would say to you this, I would say three or four things. One is we just have to be a little bit careful about what we say might happen. Okay? Just a little bit careful. Secondly, we're working very, very closely with the UN on this. The UN are in the lead. I have pushed through my discussions with the Secretary General, through the Special Representative. I've met with the Iraqi Foreign Minister on several occasions. I set a special envoy to do a lot of work, not least with Member States, because as you rightly recognise, the importance of those Member States who have got nationals as residents of Camp Ashraf need to also be aware of what needs to happen. And you will know most recently that I have indeed offered support to the UN in every possible way in terms of how we can make sure that people are properly monitored, can feel secure. But what we must be careful about is telling them that things may go wrong. What's important is to put in place so that they can feel confident in the UN process properly looking after them. And it's a real challenge for us, but that's what we have to do. And you know, I think, that I've worked extremely hard to try and make sure that the EU properly supports this international and UN process. And I hope that that will see effect as the UN now move forward to try and support people into the future that they want to see for themselves. Mr Karim, I won't answer on Kashmir now, but I understand exactly what you were saying, and perhaps we can talk about that. And thank you for your comments about responding to your letters. I do try to respond to members of the European Parliament letters as quickly as I can in all cases. And finally, Mr Belder, you raised Iran, and you know that we've done a lot of work with Iran on human rights. We have sanctions against them for that. You know too that I watch with great interest and try very hard in my discussions with the Iranians to persuade them to move away from the death penalty. In every country it's wrong. In every country we try and make sure that we oppose it as effectively as we possibly can. And on any individual case that honourable members wish to raise with me, we will do our very best to let you know what we are doing. We follow all these cases both on the ground and within Brussels where we possibly can, as many as we know about, and we try our very best, not least with our partners across the world, to make sure that people's rights are respected. Again, Madam President, thank you so much for the opportunity this afternoon.
Merci Madame la Commissaire. Un petit point d'ordre, Madame de Keyser, peut-être justement sur ce qui s'est passé à Liège.
Oui, merci Madame la Présidente et merci Madame la haute représentante d'avoir évoqué le drame qui se déroule à Liège depuis le début de l'après-midi. Liège qui est ma ville, mais aussi celle de deux autres députés.